Trump often brags about how he is the only US president in recent American history who didn't start a war. He presents himself as an anti-war candidate and an outsider who is against the deep state. Apart from the rhetoric, if elected, Donald Trump would lead us into World War III. To know how he will lead us into World War III, we should look at his base of support. Donald Trump's base of support comes from the white evangelical Christians. Nearly 8 out of 10 evangelicals voted for Trump in 2016 presidential elections. Nearly 76% of white evangelicals voted for him in 2020. In 2024, evangelicals are all in for Trump again. Evangelicals support Trump mainly because Trump is an anti-abortionist, as he often credited himself for killing Roe versus Wade. The other reason for evangelicals' all-out support is Trump's strong support of Israel. Evangelicals mainly support Israel because they believe a Jewish homeland in Palestine would eventually lead to the second coming of Jesus Christ, peace be upon him. Trump delivered for the evangelicals because during his presidency, Trump moved the US embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem and recognized Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights. In a reversal of long-standing US policy, he also slashed funding to the UN agency supporting Palestinian refugees and closed a Palestinian diplomatic mission in Washington. In 2018, he withdrew the US from Iran nuclear deal, a move cheered by Republicans and Netanyahu only. The following year, the Trump administration again broke the decades of precedent to declare that the US no longer considered Israeli settlements in the West Bank a violation of international law. Later in his presidency, Trump unveiled a Middle East plan that granted most of Israel's long-held demands, ensuring its swift rejection by Palestinian leaders. Trump's biggest accomplishment in the region was the so-called Abraham Accords, clinched in 2020, which normalized diplomatic relations among Israel, the United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain. In remarks to Jewish donors and activists, Trump claimed he had been on the verge of bringing Iran into the deal, even though he spent much of his presidency antagonizing Tehran, most notably ordering the assassination of Qasem Soleimani in 2020. Recently, Trump's former ambassador to Israel, David Friedman, unveiled a proposal for Israel to annex the West Bank based on the country's biblical claims to the occupied land. In an interview in February, Jared Kushner said Gaza's waterfront property could be very valuable. He also suggested Israel could move civilians out of southern Gaza city of Rafah, where more than 1.5 million displaced Palestinians are sheltering, to Israel's Negev desert, while Israeli forces finish the job. Asked about fears that Palestinians who flee Gaza may not be allowed to return, he said, "I'm not sure there is much left of Gaza at this point." At another point, Kushner described proposals to give the Palestinians their own state as super bad idea that would essentially be rewarding an act of terror. Since the war began, Trump has promised, if elected, to cut off all US aid to Palestinians, revoke the visas of foreign students deemed anti-American or anti-Semitic, and impose ideological screening to keep out foreign nationals who want to abolish Israel. During the debate, Trump criticized Biden for not supporting Israel. Biden, on the other hand, provided Israel with tons of bombs to murder Palestinians, which resulted in 40,000 civilian deaths. Trump even used Palestinians as a slur to demonize them. If Trump continues to support Israel like he did before, and it is very evident from his statements now that he will, then this war could easily escalate into World War III. Right now, Israel is fighting on multiple fronts. They are fighting Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in the north, with multiple Palestinian military factions in the West Bank, proxy groups in Syria, Houthis in Yemen, and there is a threat of full-fledged war with Iran. You have to understand one thing about US and Israel policy in Middle East, and that is US and Israel rely on Muslim dictators and monarchies to control the Muslim population. If they are overthrown, and most likely they will be overthrown at some point because they are too distant from their local population. If this happens, then Israel will not be able to contain itself and US will be forced or compelled to start World War III.